Welcome back to Let's Talk Race and Marlon. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. Today, we're going to talk about the very controversial topic, which is Miss South Africa turning out to be a white woman after all of the controversy around Chidimma being essentially booted out from the competition, it seems, as allegedly, for not having a legitimate birth certificate. Apparently, they say that she got her birth certificate. She took somebody else's identity. She's really Nigerian. She has a parent. One of her parents are Nigerian, and one of her parents are South African. But and she herself was born in South Africa. But they said the paperwork wasn't legitimate, and that way she could not officially be Miss South Africa. Well, this has been controversial because it turned out, after all, and I loved how Brenna Boyna put his post on the screen, after all that, a colonizer still gets the chance to be Miss South Africa. And the conversation around this now has been, what does it mean to be truly South African? And I understand that people can be, there's semantics to this, right? So you can be very particular and say, look, on paper, she's South African, or on this. But for a country that has had such an awful history in regards to the topic of identity and the topic of losing its identity with Africa and losing everything, I certainly think that this is a topic that should be taken seriously from a spiritual aspect. We in order for Africa to build itself as a business, where we are hoping Africa can get on its feet and financially and be a business, I think we need to first fix the issues that Africa has spiritually. And when we think of the fact that Africa trades more with other countries than it does with itself, it trades more with other continents than it does with itself, we have to fix the unity within Africa, which obviously a lot of people like Julius Malema are advocating for, a united Africa. How do we get a united Africa? We get a united Africa by a united African spirit. And it disappoints me when I see South Africans who are very much behind what happened to Chidimma and giving off xenophobic vibes towards Nigerians. It's completely awful. It's a sad state of affairs when you feel more attached to the people who came, the settlers who came and caused so much destruction for the foundation of South Africa, caused so much destruction and brought their dominance there, not in a righteous way. And I'm going to get into that now, even in terms of the dominance, because today I really just wanted to focus on, Eurocentric beauty standards. A lot of times I understand that this can be confusing for a lot of people, or rather, white people are very good at manipulating you and purposefully confusing the conversation and taking out the context of history in the conversation. Well, look, wouldn't you want a black woman to win Miss England, UK, or Miss Ireland, or Miss whatever? Wouldn't that be something that you would want? And I hate the fact that this is, I feel sorry for the brothers and sisters who find themselves in this treadmill of multiculturalism. That, okay, yes, I guess we have to show that we're willing to be together if we want them to be together. But that's not really the goal here, guys. We have to rectify things that have happened in our history of Africa, in the history of Africa. We have to understand that, let's look at it this way. We can talk about Eurocentric beauty standards. Eurocentric beauty standards were enforced on the African people. We were told that everything that we were, our beauty was ugly. We were told that our way of life was uncivilized, unintelligent. If you want to go and learn the history, you have to learn the foundations of what it meant for the Europeans to come and civilize, quote unquote, civilize us as Africans. And everything that we see, a lot of what we see today that has become the norm for our culture, even Chidimma, she's wearing a wig herself, have become normal. We have to ask ourselves, when did that first come through the door? That came through the door. Having flowy hair came through the door. I even know that my grandmother, a South African woman actually, there was a point in time, I think when she was a nurse in Zimbabwe, that she was told to wear a wig. It was more professional to wear a wig in the workplace. And she was fortunate enough to be able to work in some white hospitals from time to time. So we have to be able to look at the history of Eurocentric beauty standards and look how South Africa and even the Europeans in general enforced that in us and chained us as Africans to feel inadequate as a people. And we must put these things into context when we are having the discussion about topics like the Miss South Africa. So yes, it would be beautiful to see a black woman win Miss Europe or of some sort. Why? Because it shows that we're going towards a world where Eurocentric beauty standard no longer rules. That we are broadening and widening our perspective on beauty. And some would argue, oh, we've come a long way. Personally, I still feel it's shallow. I still feel it's shallow. You know, I was actually even thinking about all of our stars, Beyonce's, Rihanna's, and not to put down their talent, but I think they came up in a time, basically, let me put it this way. I don't think there was dark-skinned sisters who were not more talented than Beyonce and Rihanna. I don't think, I understand that's a very harsh way to look at it. It's a very harsh thing to say, but I want that to give you a scope into what colonialism did to us as a culture. I think they were very hardworking, because I know Beyonce is known for her hard work, hardworking, talented dark-skinned sisters who just didn't fit the eye of what we wanted as a people, what we idolize. We idolize lighter shade. So when we understand it like this, I'm just desperate for people to contextualize this when we're having the conversation about Miss South Africa. So even today, I think that we've come a long way. I still think that it's shallow in many ways because those two ladies are coming towards the end of their career. I think we still have that in many ways in a lot of stars we see in today's in the industry today, that lighter shade gives them that edge. That lighter shade just seems to give them that edge that they need. In terms of beauty, in terms of being more desired. And I actually today stumbled across a clip of, it was Daniel Kulia, he's an actor, and I'm gonna play this for you guys to see.
It's not your hair. Wanna pull my beautiful hair, but I don't wanna lose one. Looking for an au natural, I can't find one. Thought it was a kind of shoulder length party, but it's more like sky blue highlights down to a thighs one. Yo, Jay, I told you I was into Asian chicks. Come infinities, drink some bounce. Don't need more carpet in my house, I'm out. We need some real hair in here. 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 There's too many weave, too many weave. 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 We need some real hair in here. 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 There's too many weave, too many weave. 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 In the hair they're hiding illegal goods. No human, just horse. No roots, just lining. The hairline needs redesigning. I see bare weaves in the queue, to be honest. The rave come like Beyonce's closet. No shame, no links. Hold on, is this a hair in my drink?
So that is the Daniel Kulia, the actor who starred in Get Out. And as you can see there, that's an old legendary song. For anybody who's not really from the Europe or from the UK, you probably won't recognize this song. This song used to be called, was written by a band or a group, rap group called Boy Better Know. But as you can see on the shirts, they have Girl Better Know. The song was originally supposed to go like, we need some more girls in here. And these guys have switched to, we need some real hair in here. And I was just reminiscing today on how us as black men, there was such a history with us indulging in our internalized oppression, indulging in this type of rhetoric that put down black women and ridiculed black women and laughed at them. And I was just looking back at the history, and it made me think then about Miss South Africa and what's going on today. It made me realize, you know, there's so much history to rectify. There is absolutely so much history to rectify. And my biggest disappointment and fear is that we have created this sugar-coated new reality in which we claim the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice, and we uplift black women, and we like to do it on social media. But I still don't feel that it is as genuine as it needs to be, or as intense. And when I say intense, I mean intense in terms of transparency. You know, since I've come to my revelation and understanding of the history and just reflection and everything that's happened with me and my awakening, the first step I understood was us actually having a honest and transparent conversation about what the likes of Michelle Obama went through, what the likes of Serena Williams went through, what dark-skinned women went through, what black women in general went through. And I don't think it is possible for us to actually create a better tomorrow without a form of transparency and honesty. And I think I can feel the disingenuousness when I see a lot of black brothers who kind of go on like they always liked black women. Like there were never these jokes. Like I'm not seeing a lot of black men who are with snow bunnies. That a lot of black men's preferences are just by coincidence, and they're not based off historical facts. And it shocks me, and it kind of, I don't get it, because I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe they're failing to understand that it is not by your own level of weakness or stupidity or incompetence that you perceived yourself like this, the black woman. That's self-hatred. It is not. It is the power of colonialism, the power of the colonial agenda that seek to teach the black man that everything that he had. And I always love reading out Cecile Rhodes' quote, and I'll put up on the screen for you to see, for you guys to see. I from the moment I read it, I understood today so much better. I see that these are despicable people, Cecile Rhodes said. And it became their agenda to colonize us, to indoctrinate us, that one way is the way of intelligence and another way is primitive. This manifests itself in how we perceive our own languages, how we perceive our own cultures, how we perceive a lot of things of ourselves. And everything advanced seems to be Western. This is why I've always noticed this a very unfortunate air that South Africa feels, that because the colonizer decided that he was not going to give up the grounds in South Africa, that is the reason South Africa is better off. I've actually seen people say it explicitly, but for the sake of this argument, I won't involve the idiots, because general people wouldn't involve themselves in such worship, man worship. But I think there is some conscious side to the African mind that in many ways, we have embraced a lot of the negatives of the fact that apartheid never truly lost. And here is a great, indication of the question that lies, did apartheid really lose? I think it's fantastic that we found moments like this where truth is sitting and looking at us in the face, where we're left to kind of ask ourselves, is this what we fought for? Some would say, what's the problem? Like I mentioned before in the video, what's the problem with a black woman winning? Or rather, a white woman winning? The problem is, like I told you, the white South Africans, like Elon Musk, enforced themselves by force. And now they want to have an existence in South Africa that fails to acknowledge where it came from and how much work it's going to really take to really cleanse the residue of apartheid. And that to me is a clear indication of the guilt that still lies of people who still want to, in a new way, oppress. So in one hand, we see yet again the dominance, the one that says, neglects how they split Africa up. Remember, there was no such thing as Zimbabwe or Rhodesia or South Africa or Nigeria prior to colonization. There may have been tribes, but the dangerous thing about colonization is that not only did it separate us, but it actually pinned us against each other. And ever since, we've had a friction that as Africans, we cannot seem to get over, which is a clear indication of our internalized oppression. So who wins at the end of the day? So this legacy wants to negate history and what that represents for Mia to be sitting there as Miss South Africa, and that a fellow African was less validated when we should be saying, listen, if this woman is an African and that woman has come from an agenda that sought to dominate the black Africans, the black South Africans, how are we standing in 2024 and saying one has just as much entitlement, or if not in this case, more entitlement, than the one who is actually native to this continent? And on top of that, the elephant in the room, as if we've not been told by media, by the world, by everything over and over and over again, that beauty standards were European. This is why we have wigs. It's such a massive culture. And people say, oh, white women wear wigs. White women wear white Eurocentric texture. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, sisters. I know you're not going to like me for this. And I'm not trying to sound like Daniel Kulia, who did this video. But that was insensitive of him, how I went about it. But it's a clear indication of the issues that we had. We idolized real hair, real Eurocentric hair. And we ridiculed our sisters, ourselves, whose hair, and I quote like he said in that song, like a carpet. He says, I don't need any more carpet in my house. He also said, I want to run my fingers through her hair, but I don't want to lose a finger. This self-hate, this self-loathing. We are trying to defeat the legacy of colonialism, the legacy that said what is black is wrong and what is white is right. Black culture is primitive. Western culture is advanced. I'm going to put this for anybody who's wondering today. A lot of what you're seeing with Africa, our weak points, and thinking, Europeans know how to do it better than us. I beg to differ. You'll be shocked what a nation in a state of low self-esteem will operate in. They will come across like a stupid continent. I've now learned and woken up no longer to mistake Africa low self-esteem for stupidity. Broken spirit for stupidity. I want to know what a confident Africa looks like, where we believe in our morals, where we believe in our rights, we believe in our cultures, we believe in our way of life, and we've not been taught and been made have doubts in our way of life. There's so much of a worship for Western and white worship that still lives in Africa. Ask yourself today, African, if we remove that spirit from Africa, I want to see Africa move with confidence and self-belief and move with our gut, what's right for us. And I bet you will see a beautiful civilization flourish that even Westerners will say, goodness me, I've got to move to Africa. It is a beautiful world out there, completely far removed from what I'm getting here in Europe or here in America. But because even the systems that the West left in Africa have just been an echo, they instilled systems that we are now running on their behalf. Belief systems, not even just systems in terms of institutions, but even beliefs, mentalities, beauty standards, everything. My people, this here we're witnessing, I think everyone was aware, and for me, that's a win. When everyone can sit back and see the legacy of colonialism in this moment, when a South African girl, where we see the self-hate, a black girl, African girl, is rejected in her own continent. She's rejected if she goes to Europe. She's rejected if she's in her own continent. I think it's so refreshing to see Africa stand back, except for those few South Africans who just are so engrossed and then, infatuated by their proximity with developedness, with whiteness, that they want to put their chin up at other African countries. Don't come here and we've got going. We're cuddling up with master here. The dynamic has not changed since apartheid. The wealth disparity has not changed. The distribution of wealth has not changed. You've got people like Elon who don't even talk about the past with any sort of remorse. And he is not reprimanded by his country to say we don't subscribe to Elon, because here in South Africa we stand on apologetic perspective towards apartheid, not a get over it black people perspective towards it. Even good people in America say here in apartheid we are ashamed. Here in America we are ashamed of the civil rights movement. We don't have people like Elon. And it seems like the African is just more appreciative that the South African's willing to forget about it and share crumbs with him. It is great that we can all see that. Yeah, I think we've got more work to do. I know our sister, Chidimma, will probably feel like this was a loss, but personally to me, this was a win. This was definitely a win. It got us talking. It have us taking a step back and realizing, yeah, we still got work to do. That's a win for me. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
And I'm on a mission for you.